aka Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
After WJ Light's career-ending crash last season, Nintendo has hired Kazuma Mikino from Japan to be the new racer for Team Nintendo, which means that he's a rookie this season. Same with Casey Cartwood, who will be driving the number 19 this season. And here is Bill Gears, who is also a rookie and running a part-time schedule this season. Jeff Gorvette has a new look, and this is his new look, and so does his teammate Terry Cabani, who is made to look like the guy that's on his hood. Just why? Oh, and Bill Racelot also has a new look. Now onto the teams. Rush Racing is the same as last season. Same with Alloy Wilson Racing, Pancake Shift Right Racing, the Pit Stops Revolting Crew, the Speedson Racing. Oh, but Blaster Charger Racing has a new owner. Hopefully the team performs better this season, and the Anti-Chick Hicks team now has Todd Marcus because Ivan Yoder retired. Chevrolet Motorsports has no changes other than that two of their cars now have new looks. And DEI now has a fourth car with Michael Cartrip. That talk that Dale Earnhardt wanted to have with Michael Cartrip was about joining Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. Eli Motors Racing hasn't changed, but Chip Carnassi has bought Big 4 Racing. And now it's Chip Carnassi Racing. Reverham Motorsports is a new team started by Ray Reverham, Jeff Gorvette's old crew chief. And now ECS2 Motorsports is also still the same. Wood Brothers Racing is still the same. The Crazy 8s team still has their two cars. And Dynaco Motorsports still has the king. Here's the starting lineup. Bill Racelot will start at pole position with Murray Clutchburn to his outside. Sterling Carlin will start in row 2 with Eugene Carbareski to his outside. In the third row, Jerry Nadrive and Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be in row 3. But Dale Earnhardt will be behind in row 4 with Jeff Burrington to his outside. The king will start 9th with Ward Burrington to his outside. But in the 6th row, here is Jimmy Speedcar, which surprised me. Same with Rusty Wheelhouse starting on his outside. Jeff Gorvette and Ken Schrader will start in row 7. Hall Ingus and Matt Karzith will start out in row 8. But Chick Hicks starts in row 9 with Ricky Carvin to his outside. I hope Ricky Carvin doesn't crash. And also, somehow, row 10 has Michael Cartrip and Ernie Gearson. Row 11 has the rookie Casey Cartwood and Mark Carton. Kevin Shiftright and Tony Gassworth will start in row 12. Row 13 has Slide Park and Kurt Bushtire, who will be attempting all 36 races this season. Row 14 has Misty Motocross and Billy Oil Changer. Somehow, I don't know. But row 15 has Krusty Rotor and Ricky Sludd. Back in row 16 is Dale Carrett and Joe Brakecheck. Chuck Armstrong, last season's champion, and Terry Cabani will be starting out in row 17. Ruby Easy Oaks will start in the inside of row 18 with Todd Marcus to his outside. Somehow, Bobby Cabani and Jeremy Carfield will be starting all the way back in row 19. But with Dave Laney and Elliot Draftler in row 20, Ron Blaster and Mark Burnsley will be starting in the back in row 21. And at the very back is Kazuma Mikino from Japan. Now, onto the race. Bill Racelot will lead the first lap, but then he'd lose the lead to Sterling Carlin. Sterling Carlin will lead all the way to lap 41, where, Rusty Wheelhouse is down one lap because he went to go pit. Ward Burrington would be the car that takes the lead on lap 41, and he'd lead for 7 laps, but then Ruby Easy Oaks is out because of an engine failure. But then Chuck Armstrong would take the lead on lap 48, and he'd lead for 4 laps before losing the lead to Ward Burrington, who'd lead once more, leading all the way to lap 95, where Jeff Gorvette would take the lead from him. Jeff Gorvette would lead for 11 laps before Dale Earnhardt would take the lead from him, leading for another 11 laps before Eugene Carbareski would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 125, where Dale Carrett will take the lead from him, leading for just 1 lap before he'd lose the lead to Slide Park. Slide Park would lead for 2 laps before Chuck Armstrong would take the lead from him. Chuck Armstrong would lead for 8 laps before Ward Burrington would once again take the lead until lap 143, where the King would take the lead from him. The King would lead for 11 laps before Rusty Wheelhouse would be back on lead lap. The car that takes the lead is Mark Carton, who would lead for 3 laps before he'd lose the lead to Ward Burnton. Ward Burnton would lead for 9 laps before Slide Park would take the lead from him. He'd lead just 1 lap before Chuck Hicks is 9th as of lap 167, where Dale Earnhardt, Ricky Carvin, Terry Carboni, Kevin Shiftright, Ron Blaster, Chuck Armstrong, Krusty Roeder, Jeff Gorvette, Slide Park, Jerry Nadrive, Mark Carton, Hollingus, Ward Burnton, Tony Gasworth, who gets flipped, by the way, Mark Burnsley, Ernie Gearson, Todd Marcus, Bobby Carboni, and Kurt Busch-Tire are all out because Chick Hicks is a mean car. Michael Cartrip would lead for 7 laps before the King would take the lead, and he'd lead for 100 laps! How does any car lead for 100 laps? But Dale Earnhardt doesn't like the fact that the King is leading so many laps, so he tells his team, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Michael Cartrip, that they need to catch up to the King. Eventually, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead until lap 298, where Chuck Hicks is 8th as of lap 298, where Matt Karzith and Kajima Mikino now go down 1 lap because Chick Hicks pushed them into the wall. The King would retake the lead and lead for 100 laps! How does any car lead 100 laps twice in the race? And Dale Earnhardt would take the lead for 27 laps after the King loses it. And now Dale Earnhardt Jr. would lead 10 more laps before his teammate Michael Cartrip would pass him, leading until lap 449, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead for just 5 laps. But then, his teammate Michael Cartrip would retake the lead until lap 461, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would once again take the lead for 3 laps. But then, Michael Cartrip would lead all the way to the end of the race, but to the commentary. Come on, buddy! Wanna go! The last lap of the 2001 Florida 500. Let's go, buddy! Don't let him pass you! Come on, man. Come on, man. He's gonna pass you! 3 wide behind them! You got it, Mikey! You got it, man! You got it! Come on, man! Big trouble! Right behind them! Here's what Bob Cutlass was talking about. Eugene Komareski was 5th as of the last lap, but Dale Earnhardt and Ken Schrader, of course, are out! Leave him back to the flag. You come on, Mikey! Come on, Mikey! You got it! You got it! You got it! You got it! All right! All right! Yeah! Michael Cartrip wins! Woo! All right! The dream come true. Oh man! Which means that Michael Cartrip wins his very first race, the 2001 Florida 500. But I'm on Dale. Is he okay? Is Dale okay though? Sadly, Dale Earnhardt died when Dale Earnhardt hit the turn 4 wall. He died instantly at the age of 49. Ken Schrader called to him, but he never answered. Here was Ken Schrader trying to call to Dale Earnhardt, and here are the reactions of Michael Cartrip, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the King, Jeremy Carfield, Dale Carrett, Chuck Armstrong, Jack Rush, Hollingus, Jeff Gorvette, Rusty Wheelhouse, and most importantly, Richard Chilpaints, Dale Earnhardt's crew chief, all reacting to the death of the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt. In 1994, Dale Earnhardt told his crew chief, Richard, if they don't improve the safety, it's going to end up killing somebody. Well, the safety, not improving, did kill someone. And here is the top 20 of the 2001 Florida 500. Dale Earnhardt would finish 12th in his final race.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Even though the Piston Cup has just seen its greatest tragedy, there are still 35 more races left in the season. For the 34 in between the first and the last, I need to make 2 videos to show all of those races. The first video will be coming out very soon, and the second video soon after that. Stay tuned for the 2 videos that will be displaying the 2001 Piston Cup races 2 to 35.
KA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Remember Richard Chillpaints? Well, he made his own team, Richard Chillpaints Racing, before the second race. And his car is not Matthew Field Wheel, but a new rookie by the name of Kevin Carvick. Jeff Corvette will start at pole position for the second race, and for every race for the rest of the season, there will be a silent lap 3. But then, Chick Hicks wrecks 14 cars on the third lap, and Chuck Armstrong's out for the next race because he hit the wall really hard. Bobby Carboni would almost win the second race, but Slide Park would pass him on the high side to win the second race. And here is what Slide Park had to say after his win in the second race of 2001. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would start at pole position for the third race, where Chick Hicks wrecked 13 cars, and now he's out for the season because of his rival, Kyle Traxon. Well, this is bad any way you put it. And also, Chick Hicks and Kyle Traxon will be suspended for the rest of the season for interrupting the silent third lap. Jeff Corvette would go on to win the third race. Dale Earnhardt will start at pole position for the fourth race, where Jeff Corvette would lead the most laps with 236, and he only loses by 3 feet to Kevin Carvick, who wins his very first race, the fourth race of 2001. And here is the finish, which looks very similar to when Dale Earnhardt won at the very same track a year ago. Jeff Corvette would start at pole position for the fifth race, where Slider Petrolski goes airborne on lap 88, and he falls onto Ron Blaster, who's out for 10 races. This is because of Todd Marcus, who will be suspended for 10 races because of what he did. Slide Park came very close to winning the fifth race, but in the end, Dale Earnhardt will win the fifth race of 2001. Krusty Rotor would surprisingly get the pole for the sixth race, where Buck Schooner would get flipped on lap 189 because of Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. Why? Krusty Rotor would lead the most laps with 113, but it's not enough to beat Hollingus, who wins the sixth race of 2001. Bill Racelot would start at pole position for the seventh race, where Dirksen D'Agostino flips on lap 99. I don't know how, but Chuck Armstrong would lead the most laps with 185, and Dale Earnhardt would win the seventh race. I don't know, but Rusty Wheelhouse will start at pole position for the eighth race, where Eugene Carbureski is out for 8 races because of Ken Schrader. Well, of course this happened, but Ken Schrader had this to say to Eugene Carbureski. Kazmo Mikino would actually get his first top 10. Hooray! And the King would go on to win the 8th race, and the King has this to say to Kajimo Mikino. Hollingus would start at pole position for the 9th race where Billy Oil Changer wrecks Johnny Blamer and Bill Gears. Why? But now Billy Oil Changer's out because of Murray Clutchburn. Hooray! And Rusty Wheelhouse would bump and run Murray Clutchburn. I thought you apologized to us in 1995, saying never to wreck other cars again. Mark Carton, who never wrecks other cars, almost wins the 9th race, but in the end, the King wins the 9th race, and Bobby Carboni would start at pole position for the 10th race where Winford Bradford Rutherford is out because of a cut tire, and Podgy Wipeout runs over it a couple laps later, which means he's out too. Chuck Armstrong would lead the most laps with just 80, but the King would be first as of the last lap, but be passed by Rusty Wheelhouse, who would win the 10th race of 2001. And here's what he had to say. April 29th, 2001 would have been Dale Earnhardt's 50th birthday if he hadn't died. Mark Carton would start at pole position for the 11th race where Ernie Gearson is out because of Sammy Smelter. That's gross! And the King would almost win the 11th race, but in the end, Elliot Draftler would beat him to the line to win his very first race. And for the first time since 1979, the 21 and the 43 finished 1-2. Mark Burnsley would start at pole position for the 12th race where Johnny Blamer accidentally starts a crash. A car that got through is Tony Gasworth, and he would win the 12th race. Ricky Sludd would start at pole position for the 13th race where Ralph Carlo goes airborne on lap 148 because of Mark Burnsley. Why? And Ricky Sludd would only lose by 9 feet to the King. And the King wins the 13th race of 2001. Murray Clutchburn would start at pole position for the 14th race where Davey Apex jumps on other cars to take the lead. But Manny Flywheel somehow wrecks him while Davey Apex is midair. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. would lose by 4 feet to the King, who would win the 14th race of 2001. Jeff Gorvette would start at pole position for the 15th race where he would lead the most laps with 297 and easily win the 15th race. Yup, Jeff Gorvette dominated this one, and Kajimo Mikino would get his first pole with the 16th race, and Hollingus would go into the catch fence on lap 102 because of Tony Gasworth, who would lead the most laps with 71, and Kevin Karvik would win the 16th race. 2 wins in his rookie year, and also a year where no one really expected him to race. Sterling Carlin will start at pole position for the 17th race where Todd Marcus wrecks 7 cars, and now he's out on lap 279 because of Kurt Busch tire. Hooray! And Krusty Rotor would almost win the 17th race, but in the end, his teammate Jeff Gorvette would beat him to the line to win the 17th race. Sterling Carlin would once again start at pole position for the 18th race where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would lead the most laps with 316, and now Eugene Carbureski is out on the last lap because of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Hooray! Now, to the commentary. Michael Cartrip is second, but it's going to be Dale Earnhardt Jr. using lessons learned from his father to go from 6th to 1st to score the victory in the Gaspin 400. Yes! Yes! So, that means that Michael Cartrip almost wins the 18th race, but in the end, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would win the 18th race at the same track that took his father's life just 5 months earlier. And Ken Schrader has this to say, because Ken Schrader and Eugene Carbareski are rivals. Jimmy's speed car would start at pole position for the 19th race, where he's out because of Kurt Busch tire. Why? And now Billy Oil Changer would lead the most laps, but Tony Gasworth would wreck Billy Oil Changer, and Jeff Corvette would win the 19th race. The 20th race has Bill Racelot starting at pole position, but then Slider Petrolski flips because he slipped on Sammy Smelter's stinky oil. Why? And now the King would almost win the 20th race, but in the end, Jeff Corvette would get 2 wins in a row with the 20th race of 2001. Kevin Shiftwright will start at pole position for the 21st race, where Jeff Corvette would go airborne on lap 176 because of Todd Marcus. Why? And the King would win the 21st race of 2001. And here's what the King had to say after he won. Then Manny Flywheel asks this question. And Todd Marcus would somehow start in the pole for the 22nd race, where Ron Blaster would lead the most laps, but then John Hex wrecks 19 cars! And now he'll be suspended for the rest of the season because he wrecks too many cars. Oh, and cheated by using illegal tires. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. would win the 22nd race. The King would start at pole position for the 23rd race, where Ken Schrader is out because of Eugene Carbareski. Well, of course this happens. And also, Slider Petrolski would only lose by 5 feet to Krusty Rotor, who wins the 23rd race. And also, Hollingus would start at the pole for the 24th race, where Ruby Easy Oaks would go into the catch fence because of Todd Marcus. Why? And Johnny Blamer would wreck out with 2 to go. But in the end, the King will win the 24th race of 2001. Jeff Corvette will start at pole position for the 25th race, where Eugene Carbareski is out because of Ken Schrader. Well, of course this happens. And also, Jeff Corvette would almost win the 25th race, but in the end, Chuck Armstrong would win the 25th race. The 26th race has Hollingus starting at the pole, but then Dale Carrett would lead the most laps with 129, and Kenny Shiftwright would get loose, and also he's out alongside Billy Oil Changer and Moray Clutchburn. Moray Clutchburn has this to tell Johnny Blamer. And Johnny Blamer would go airborne on the final turn because of Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. Why? And Bobby Carboni would be the car that ends up winning the 26th race of 2001. And here are the standings as of the 26th race of 2001.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
The 2001 Piston Cup races 27 to 35 will be coming out very soon. And that's all I have to say because this video is getting long.
KA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Slide Park is now out for the season because of a crash he had in the second division. And Kenny Wheelhouse will replace him for the rest of the season. Kurt Busch will start at pole position for the 27th race, where Lee Revkins somehow hops onto the catch fence and Johnny Blamer somehow spins himself out. And Warburton would end up winning this race, the 27th race of 2001. But then, on September 11th, 2 terrorist planes crashed into the Twin Towers in New York. Dale Earnhardt will start at pole position for the following race, the 28th race. All of the Piston Cup racers are in red, white, and blue, including Ken Schrader, who is in all red, white, and blue, and now he's out because of Eugene Karbareski. Well, of course this happens, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. would win the 28th race of 2001 following 9/11. Moray Clutchburn would start at pole position for the 29th race, where Ruby Easy Oaks would go into that catch fence because of Mark Boonsley. Why? But Kevin Shiftwright would almost win the 29th race, but in the end, the King wins the 29th race of 2001. A surprising pole sitter being Bill Gears will start at pole position for the 30th race, where Krusty Rotor would be out because of Todd Marcus. Why? And Kevin Carvick is down 1 lap on the last lap because of rough racing. Dale Earnhardt would only lose by 20 feet to Ricky Carvin, who wins his very first race, the 30th race of 2001. Chuck Armstrong will start at pole position for the 31st race, where Jeff Gorvette would lead the most laps with 236, and he would only lose by 5 feet to the King, who wins the 31st race and his 7th win this season. Rusty Wheelhouse will start at pole position for the 32nd race, where Sterling Carlin would go airborne on lap 168 because of Eugene Karbareski. Why? But now he's out because of, well, of course, Ken Schrader. Well, we all expected this to happen, but Bill Racelot would almost win the 32nd race, but in the end, Bobby Carboni would end up winning the 32nd race. The 33rd race is started by Hall Ingus, who's on the pole, but Davey Apex somehow spins himself out with 1 wheel. And Bill Racelot would lead the most laps with 103, and the King would almost win the 33rd race, but in the end, Sterling Carlin would get his first win since 1996, the 33rd race of 2001. Bill Racelot would get another pole position for the 34th race, where Chuck Armstrong would go into the catch fence because of Tony Gasworth, who leads the most laps with 130. And the winner is Bill Racelot, who hasn't won a race for 7 years. A car that won earlier in the season, Chuck Armstrong would start at pole position for the 35th race, where Jeff Burton goes airborne on lap 75 because of Todd Marcus. Why? But now he's out for the season because Jeff Burton came back from the wall to push Todd Marcus into the inside wall. And Jeff Burton's car owner, Jack Rush, is very happy with that. But Sterling Carlin ends up winning the 35th race. And only 2 cars can win the Piston Cup mathematically this year: the King and Jeff Gorvette. Now, let's see who comes third. Well, one of these 5 cars can, but all of them had good seasons this season, but they can't win the Piston Cup this year. Let's see who comes third this year in the 2001 Piston Cup season.
press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Now, there is one final race in the 2001 Piston Cup season, the Dynaco 400. And there are two cars, the King and Jeff Gorvette, that can win that Piston Cup. In the 2001 Dynaco 400, you will see which one wins the 2001 Piston Cup. That video will be coming out very soon.
KA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Ron Blaster is not doing well, so he's going to retire at the end of the season. Bill Racelot would get yet another pole and lead for the first 3 laps of the Dynaco 400, where he'd lose the lead to Jeff Gorvette, who would lead for 6 laps before Matt Karzith would take the lead on lap 10, but lose the lead 3 laps later to Chuck Armstrong. Chuck Armstrong would lead for a solid 8 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him. 5 laps later, Hollingus would take the lead. Hollingus would lead for yet another 5 laps before Rusty Wheelhouse would take the lead from him. Rusty would only lead 2 laps before Rusty Cornfuel is out because of an engine failure. Darren Leadfoot would take the lead for 3 laps before he'd lose the lead to the King. And the King would lead for 2 laps before Bobby Cabani would take the lead from him. Bobby Cabani would lead for 6 laps before Krusty Rotor would take the lead from him. Krusty Rotor only leads 2 laps before Jeremy Carfield takes the lead from him. On lap 51, when Jeremy Carfield stops leading, Kevin Carvick will now be in the lead. And he'd lead for 6 laps before he'd lose the lead to Jeff Burnton. Jeff Burnton would lead to lap 62, where he'd lose the lead to Rusty Wheelhouse, who would lead for 5 laps before Sterling Carlin would take the lead from him. On lap 73, he'd lose the lead to Chuck Armstrong, and Chuck Armstrong would lead for 3 laps before Eugene Komareski is 15th as of lap 76, where Kajimo Mikno and Johnny Blamer are out, but Murray Clutchburn would take the lead until lap 83, where Ken Schrader is out because of Eugene Komareski. Well, I would understand this one happening, but Claude Scruggs is now complaining about this season. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead until lap 97, where he'd lose the lead to Jeff Gorvette, and Jeff Gorvette would lead for 8 laps before the King would take the lead from him. The King would lead until lap 122, where Hollingus would take the lead from him, all the way until lap 146, where Darren Leadfoot would once again take the lead, but this time just for 3 laps again, before Bill Racelot the pole sitter would retake the lead, all the way until lap 207, where Jeff Burnton would take the lead from him. On lap 210, Tony Gasworth would take the lead from him, leading for just 4 laps, where Rusty Wheelhouse would once again take the lead for 2 laps before Jeff Gorvette is in the lead on lap 216. He leads for 12 laps before Mark Carton would lead for 9 laps before Kevin Shiftright would lead until lap 242, where Eugene Karbareski is 8th as of lap 242, where Rusty Wheelhouse, Terry Carboni, Ward Burnton, Billy Oil Changer, Krusty Rotor, and Ruby Easy Oaks are out! And now, Jeff Gorvette will take the lead until lap 251, where Tony Gasworth would take the lead from him for just 4 laps, where, surprisingly, Joe Brakecheck would lead for a lap before now he's out because he hit the wall really hard. And Bill Racelot would once again take the lead until lap 263, where Chuck Armstrong would also once again take the lead, but for 6 laps, where Bobby Carboni would take the lead from him. Bobby Carboni would lead for 16 laps before Hollingus would take the lead from him, leading until lap 294, where Kurt Buschtire would take the lead from him. Kurt Buschtire would only lead 3 laps before the King, would once again take the lead for 9 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would lead into lap 312 for a total of 6 laps before the King retakes the lead until lap 335, where Sterling Carlin would take the lead for 3 laps. But then the King retakes the lead once more until lap 343, where Chuck Armstrong would lead for just 2 laps. But then Jeff Gorvette would come back into the lead and lead to lap 356, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead, but on lap 362, Jeff Gorvette would retake the lead once more for 13 laps before he loses the lead to Elliott Draftler, who leads 11 laps before the King retakes the lead once more until lap 393, where Jeff Gorvette would once again take the lead for 4 laps before Darren Leadfoot retakes the lead for 1 lap before the King passes him. He leads on the last lap to win the 2001 Dynaco 400, and most importantly, the 2001 Piston Cup. The King wins his 7th Piston Cup, the first car to win 7 Piston Cups. If only Jeff Gorvette kept his lead, he could have won the race. But Jeff Gorvette will have to wait another season to win another Piston Cup. Tony Gassworth and Sterling Carlin had good seasons, especially coming towards the end. And Dale Earnhardt gets yet another top 5. His 5th season in a row of getting a top 5. Bobby Carboni is 6th. But in 8th, there is Dale Earnhardt Jr., who won 3 races. Important races, but he still won 3 times. Chuck Armstrong also had a solid season, despite only having 1 win. Kevin Harvick, the rookie, that was set up to replace Dale Earnhardt, gets 10th position, despite the fact he only ran 35 races. Jeff Burton's out of the top 10. And Ward Burton is back below the top 20. Jeremy Carfield also didn't do very well late in the season, so he's in 22nd. Elliott Draftler did have a good season, but Terry Carboni had a bad season. Krusty Roeder also had a way better season, beating Jerry Nadrive and Kurt Busch-Tire. Yep, Kurt Busch-Tire still finishing below the top 25. But Bill Racelot had a good season because he won once more. And Michael Cartrip winning his very first race. Both of them now are in the top 20 again. Well, Michael Cartrip, this is his first ever top 20 finish. And also, Kevin Shiftright's back into the top 20, and Eugene Garbareski's in 34th because he was out for 10 races. Remember? Oh yeah, you're probably wondering, where's Ken Schrader? Well, he's 20th. Slide Park and Todd Marcus are also down in positions due to Slide Park's injury and Todd Marcus's suspensions, and also being crashed out. But since a lot of cars were very inconsistent, Johnny Blamer gets a top 40 finish. Ron Blaster's only 39th because of the fact that he missed 10 races because Slider Petrolsky fell on him. Joe Brakecheck and Jimmy Speed Carr still had good seasons though. Casey Cartwood did so bad, he's not even in the top 40.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
We have reached the end of the 2001 Piston Cup season. Sure, it began very sad because Dale Earnhardt died, but the King won his 7th Piston Cup! And now, in a post-Dale Earnhardt racing world, how will the 2002 Piston Cup look? Anyways, the 2002 Florida 500 will be coming out very soon. Oh, you think I forgot? Of course I didn't forget! Neither Chick Hicks or Kyle Traxon finished in the top 40. Hooray! Sort of because Chick Hicks only could run 3 races because he was out for the season and suspended for the season after the 3rd race, after he wrecked cars on the third lap of the third race.